Okay. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to tonight's Freedom Thinking Community Group. The date is the 12th of May, 2025. It's a beautiful day. Absolutely stunning day. What's it like up north, Lise? All right. Yeah. Good. Roasting?
Roasting. Yeah.
Perfect. I'm in Essex at the moment. Jen will be with me once Lucia falls asleep. I think you all know the script by now. Yeah, this is a via donation community group. First of all, I just want to say thank you to everybody who does donate. It is so greatly appreciated. We really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. We do it via donation to make it accessible. You know, those who can afford, we ask if you can, please make a donation. If you can't, please listen. You know, and one of the things we do say is if you cannot afford to make a donation, please pay it forward with an act of kindness. You know, don't make it balanced, if you like. I mentioned this before in a community group, but the lady who introduced me to the principles, my friend Sue, she once said to me, we're having a conversation about charging for our services. And I was a bit in my head. I was like, I don't think I can charge for what I share. She said, when you come and see me, Dave, should I don't charge you for my knowledge? Should I charge you for my time? My time's valuable. I was like, oh, that's fair enough. I like that. And then she said to me, you know how this universe works, Dave. It only exists because it's balanced. She said, and you're out of balance. And she was right. So we do it via donation to make it accessible for people. We do want to do that. But like we do say, if you can't make a donation, please pay it forward. Please do something kind for somebody, you know, keep yourself in balance, you know, exchange. That's the way the world works. And it's a kindness thing. So thank you in advance to those who do donate. And thank you to those who have donated. If you wish to make a donation, please, in the description, if you're watching this afterwards, it's in the description underneath. PayPal, info@freedomthinking.co.uk, and buy me a coffee is another one, or you can contact us directly, which some people do, for our bank details, and just we'll send you the bank details, and yeah, we'll go from there. Also, just so people know, we are available to work with personally. If you want to come and work with us, give us a shout. We'll work with anybody. We're not shy. We will literally work with anybody. So yeah, please get in touch with us. info@freedomthinking.co.uk. Get in touch. We can do it in person, or we can do it via Zoom, depending on whereabouts we are in the world or whether people are prepared to travel. We're off to Morocco on Wednesday. We're doing some work out in Morocco. Really looking forward to that. That'll be lovely, a little retreat out there. So next Monday, I think, well, no, we're going to be out in Morocco, but I think, all being well, it's going to be dependent on Wi-Fi. We're probably still going to try and do it next Monday. But it is going to be dependent on Wi-Fi and other factors such as noise. We don't know where the hell we're stopping yet in our room. How noisy is it? Lucia, all that kind of stuff. So please just keep an eye out. If you're on the WhatsApp and Telegram groups, that's so much easier for us. If you want your telephone number adding to the WhatsApp or Telegram group, please get in touch with us. info@freedomthinking.co.uk. We're so much quicker on that because it's easier. But yeah, I think that's about it. Oh yeah, and if you're watching, please like, subscribe, share, and comment. Cool. I think that's it. All right. As per usual, Debbie, I don't have anything to talk about tonight, but would anybody by any chance, Debbie, have a topic of conversation that they'd like to go into? Debbie?
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Hi, everyone. Yeah, beautiful. Hi, everybody. I did mention earlier psychological innocence, which is a phrase I've got from Bill, which people will know, Bill Pettit. Yeah, I struggle a lot with regret about the past, but I think it looks to me like we're often just running off a thought system, and any insight that we have you know, I can't help any like lack of awareness or insight that I have, and any insight that I have is just a gift, and just something to like appreciate, and start to see more about gratitude for that. And one thing I just thought of is Bill talks about when if you're in the dark and you switch the lights on and you've made a mess, you know, because you bumped into something and you knocked something over in the dark, you know, you should just appreciate, you know, that you know, that the lights on, and you know, you can clean up the mess or whatever, because you know, you wouldn't have seen it if you hadn't have done that, or something like that, Dave. Yeah, something like that.
Cool. Oh, I like it when you share, Debs.
Okay, cool.
Big thing. Big topic. And genuinely one of the most important ones that we could really have a conversation around. That's why I was so pleased when you actually mentioned, Dave, you got a topic, I've got one. And you mentioned psychological innocence. Because it is a big thing. You know, many people walk around this world carrying shame and blame and guilt. I've been that man. Trust me, I've been that man. My life. Many people know a bit about my life, probably too much about my life. But you know, I've got a past. I've got history. And I'm not always terribly proud of the way I've conducted myself in the past. However, I am grateful, which is quite an interesting thing now. I am grateful for my past. I'm grateful for all the hard times. I'm grateful for the learning that I've acquired throughout my life to bring me to where I am today. And I don't think I could have quite got to where I am now, which is, I don't really know where, but I experience far more peace in my life than I ever did. You know, I've been to prison for violence and stuff like that when I was younger, and just the way I'd treat people in the past. And just all the stupid things I've said over the years, and forgive me if a fly keeps landing on me, it's properly gunning for me. Yeah, you know, I carried a lot of weight around with me in my life. And that was one of the reasons I actually got to the point of such despair that I wanted to end it. Got a friend who recently just did. He was 31, I think, and he took his own life because he just couldn't handle his past. He just couldn't handle it. Yeah, it was a proper shame. And I don't know, it's like when I look back at my psychological innocence, and we'll certainly start to bring that in. It's like, but when I look back at my own life, and you know, and it's not that I condone my actions in any way, because I don't condone violence. I don't condone speaking to people like shit. I don't condone road rage. I don't condone throwing your weight around. But I remember the day that I listened to Sid and then I went for a walk, and I remember for the first time in as long as I could remember, I remember saying these words, Dave, you're a good man. And those words meant the world to me to hear. They came from me, and they meant the world to me to hear. For me to finally realize I'm not a bad man. I'm not my past. I'm not what I did. I'm not what I said. There are other aspects of myself that are kind, compassionate, loving. But it was so interesting how much I focused attention on everything I thought was wrong with myself. And in doing so, you know, where you focus attention, you get an experience. That's the way reality is born. Where we focus attention. If we focus attention on everything that's going wrong in the world, that's all you're going to see. you're just going to see wrong in the world. It's so, you know, this climate change thing, you start to focus your attention on climate change, all of a sudden every aspect of weather becomes part of climate change, not just weather anymore, because we look through that we go looking for. We see what we go looking for, because the reality we encounter exists within our being. It's not outside of us. It's an internal experiential reality that we're always exploring. The only thing we're ever exploring is different aspects of ourself, and our self is infinite. Forgiving ourselves is one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves. Forgiving others is one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves and others. Also, forgiving ourselves is a great gift to others much of the time, because quite often, you know, living with somebody who lives in the darkness is hard work for their relatives. It's hard work for their families. You know, they're worrying about them continuously, or they're getting fed up with their tempers or something like that. You know, it's so when an individual actually forgives themselves, it has ramifications right through their circle of people. It's one of the greatest gifts we can offer ourselves in the world, is forgiveness of ourselves and others. And the greatest way I have come to discover how to forgive is through the conversation of psychological innocence and the understanding of the nature of mind. 3 principles, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, the day I stood on the side of Potter Fell, and I could see clearly how I'd created my experience of life. I could see clearly how I created my depression. I could see clearly how I created this persona of a hard man. A man who wanted to be seen. A man who wanted to be respected. A man who wanted to be recognized. God bless me. I was a deeply insecure man. Seriously insecure man. I know I'm not on my own when I speak about those things. This feeling state of I'm not good enough already is a thing that kind of it kind of permeates the consciousness of much of humanity. This idea I'm not good enough, I need to be something better. Nobody sees me. But standing there in that moment and seeing that I'd created it all unknowingly, I could see my own innocence in it. And it was such an interesting thing, because as I saw my own innocence, I saw the innocence in others. And therefore forgiveness became exceptionally easy. And the thing is about forgiveness is when you forgive, your suffering ceases. Literally, our suffering ceases. What is not forgiving? It's holding on to the past. If you are in a state of non-forgiveness, it is a state of holding on to the past. It's that simple. You are carrying a moment around in time with you, and you are determined to keep hold of it. Perhaps to punish another person, or perhaps because you don't want to let yourself off the hook in case you do it again. Or perhaps it's because you're just afraid of the outcome if you don't keep this stuff in mind. It's probably the same as number 2, actually. But we all have our different reasons for carrying around the past. Safety. But it's one of our greatest mistakes. It is truly one of our greatest mistakes. It is not the route to peace. It is not the route to safety. It is not the route to the world we actually want to live in. It's not the route of the feelings we're looking for, the acceptance we're seeking. It's anything but. It's its opposite. It was such a revelation to me in that moment to discover that I create my own reality. I, whatever I am, create my own experience of life. But it didn't look like that. It never looked like that. It always looked like reality existed outside of me. And my presence was an irrelevance whether reality exists or not. That's what it looked like to me. It looked like whether I'm here or not, it doesn't matter. Reality exists. So therefore, I was an irrelevance when it came to reality. But in that moment of awakening, it was like, no, you are the totality of reality. Reality only is because you are. I went from the outside to the inside. The thing is about going from the outside to the inside is you never actually leave the inside. The outside was always an illusion. There is only the inner world we ever get to experience. Now, I didn't know that. And because I didn't know that, I then assumed that all my feelings were being created by circumstance. Circumstance, when my definition of circumstance in this instance is things taking place outside of me, people's words, time, the past, the future, events, people's actions. I couldn't see that none of this stuff actually had any power until I could. And you said something, Debs, and something that came to me as you were saying it was, it's really, really simple. You cannot know what you do not know. It's impossible to know what you don't know. Ignorance in law carries no clout. You can be taken to court, you could be imprisoned for committing a crime you didn't even know was a crime. There is no innocence in the law. But when it comes to actual fact, there is total innocence. There is total innocence in not knowing. You cannot know what you don't know. It is impossible. It is impossible to know what you don't know. And we're all in that state of being where we live in a state of not knowing. Really, truly, none of us actually know anything. But as we go through life, we develop these ideas and we hold on to them and we start to think we know. And that's just part of life. That's part of life. It's part of being a human. It's part of the ego. And the ego isn't an enemy. Be careful not to make the ego an enemy. It's not an enemy. If you create an enemy out of the ego, you've suddenly gone to war with your own mind. The ego isn't an enemy. The fact that I respond to the name Dave, that's ego. It's a separate identity. It's an identity of self. It's a false self. My soul has no name. But in this world, it's really, really useful for me to say, well, my name's Dave. Where are you from, Dave? I don't know. I'm from the Lake District, but where do you live now? Don't actually have a clue. I live where I'm stood. This is all ego. It's all just a story. It's all made up. So be careful not to turn the ego into an enemy. Because the only person you're going to war with is yourself. And you don't want to do that. There's no peace in a mind that's gone to war with itself, that hates upon itself, that you cannot find the peace and the joy that you're looking for by beating yourself up. It's impossible. Totally and utterly impossible. And you will never find it until the day you stop. Or the moment you forget. It's been one of the greatest illusions mankind has ever faced, is reality. In fact, you ask 99% of human beings on the planet now, where does reality exist? Where's your experience coming from? They'll go, over there, my past. And you're like, no, it doesn't. It comes from inside you in the now. I'm just watching Lara look out the window just then. Her experience of looking out that window came to her in a moment of a thought. Oh, for whatever reason, turned her head and looked out the window and had an experience, momentary experience, which seamlessly fed into the next. There's no separation in experience. It's a seamless reality that we get to experience because of mind, because of consciousness, because of thought. You know, thought is that flavors the experience. It's that tells us how the world appears to us. It's how we create the feeling of the world. It's how we create the feeling of ourself. It's how we create the feeling of meeting people. It's how we create the feeling of what the weather's doing to me. It's all done from inside ourselves. We create our own reality 100% of the time. But most of the time we don't know we're doing it. So then we're very, very quick to blame our feelings on people, on outside circumstance, on the past or on the future. And this again is one of the greatest deceptions mankind has ever faced. A deception of their own mind, a deception of their own creation. In that state, we are in a state of not knowing, and you cannot know what you do not know. And then the I don't know is innocence. How could it be? Like, I look at Lucia, my little kid, and I watch her do something. I can be really quick to go, naughty little shit. Look at her chucking a drink over or whatever. But to her, she's just seeing what happens if I do this. You know, the innocence built into Lucia is you would never question it, really. You don't question it. It's very, very easy for us to see the innocence in children. But then as we get older, we start to live in this idea, or I should know better. Even though we've got more lost in the illusion of life, we think we should know better. And when we don't, we still carry the innocence of that child, of the child we were. Bloody fly. So even this bloody fly, it's totally innocent. It's just being a fly. It can't help being a fly. It was born a fly. It's going to fly a fly. It's going to die a fly. You know, and it can't help it. It's going to do what flies do. It's going to buzz around and look for something to land on and stand still for a moment, wash its eyes, and then carry on. You know, that's what flies do. It's innocent. And I could make that fly into the most annoying thing. Fucking thing. Out to get me. I said it earlier on, didn't I? It's gunning for me. But it's not. It's just being a fly. Like we're just being human. We're being human coming out of a state of total amnesia for whatever reason. Just starting to question reality itself, starting to question life, starting to question who we are, how it works. We've been so tied up in the details of business and schooling and I don't know, housing and finance, we haven't asked the most fundamental questions. What is life? How does it work? The most important questions we could ask. We're starting to ask them. I'm grateful for that. I'm just going to let him land on me. It's just a little thing. I think it's fair. But the innocence doesn't lie in, you know, like I said, in the eyes of the law. One of my favourite stories is of Sid going into prison, and when, I forget who it was now telling us now, but I think it might have been Keith Blevins who was saying that whoever was with him, the wing was full. The wing was absolutely full of inmates. It was full of prison staff, not just from that particular prison, but from other prisons, had come over to listen to Sid Banks talk, and they couldn't find Sid. And Sid had taken himself off into a corner, was crying. And they said, "Are you all right, Sid?" And he said, "Is this honestly how we treat our most vulnerable people?" I think it was, or our most suffering people. Is this really how we treat them? He couldn't believe the harshness of prisons. And with that, he got on his platform or wherever he was giving his talk from, and apparently he's waved his hand over everyone, not just the inmates, but the prison guards, those that run the prisons. And his opening statement was, "You are all innocent." Everyone was innocent. I remember a man who had spent 20 years in the psychiatric system came and did some work with Jen and I, and we interviewed him later, so he won't mind me talking about this. This was years ago, I think it was 2015. One of the things he didn't tell us, he said, but he told us in the interview, was it after the interview? I can't remember now, but he said, "Oh, and I've forgiven my mum's partner who used to abuse me." So, what? He was like, I've forgiven my mum's partner who's used to abuse me. He said, I was grateful if he was doing it to me, because at least he wasn't doing it to her. He said, and for years I carried that. He said, but he said, then I realized something. He said, that man acted on a thought and he didn't know it. He said, that man acted on a thought and he didn't know it. And I've forgiven him. He could see the man's innocence. Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. Same thing. That man suffered a great deal of the past. And a massive lump of it fell off when he forgave that man. When we were working out in South Africa, I'll never forget a lady who had a mobile phone stolen by a neighbour was telling us, like, she forgave the people who stole a mobile phone. She came to one of our groups and she said, it made no sense what you said yesterday, but last night I got up off my sofa and this was in a township called Muflowini, just off Khayelitsha, which is the major township off Cape Town. I think it was the 4th highest murder rate in the world or something. And this lady had her phone stolen, and she came in and she said, I forgave the lady who stole my mobile phone. She said, I got my phone back as well. She said to this lady, she said, I'll take back my mobile phone now. She apologized for shouting at her, for being abusive towards her, for taking her mobile phone. I'll take back my mobile phone now. She said, I will need you and you will need me. I want to forget about this. She got a mobile phone back, and I said to her, do you not feel like you've robbed yourself? You know, she nicked your phone. She said, no, Dave. She said, the weight of the world's come off my shoulders. All her pain just left. And another nice thing about that, well, it wasn't so nice, but one of the nice things that came from it was I walked outside. This is not the nice bit that came from it, and met this lady she was crying her eyes out. She was one of our first courses that we ran out there 6 months prior. And she was crying, and I said, why are you crying? She said, I've just found out my brother-in-law's been shot dead. I said, why? She said he pulled up at the wrong taxi rank and somebody put a gun through the window because he wasn't from that taxi rank, put a gun through the window and they shot him in the head. In the township, people do lose their lives pretty quickly. But that lady, she stopped the timeline of violence dead by forgiving. Her forgiveness meant she didn't have to sleep with a knife under a pillow. She didn't have to fear reprisal attacks. She didn't have to plan how she was going to keep herself safe from these people. She just forgave, and forgave the people to their faces, and walked away. We live in a thought-created reality that we don't know is a thought-created reality. We live in a dream state reality that we do not know is a dream state reality. We live in a state of consciousness that creates an experience of reality that we don't know that's what's happening. And in that, you cannot know what you do not know. It is impossible. Everyone is innocent. We've been hoodwinked, we've been blindfolded, blinded by our own experiences. And this applies to everybody on earth, and I don't care who it is. People, even of the darkest consciousness, if you want to call it that, they are the people suffering the most. They're the people most lost in the delusion. They're some of the most innocent people, because they're the ones that are most convinced that the reality that they see or think is real. Those of us who've had the privilege to start to wake up are the ones who have the privilege to start to question reality, to question our own attitudes, to question our own beliefs, to question our own thoughts, to question our own actions. You know, and it's a real gift. It's a really, really humbling gift to be on this path. And like I say, if you're on this call or you're listening to this call, you're ready. You are ready to step up. Otherwise, you simply wouldn't listen to this. You wouldn't. Take yourself back 20, 25 years. Many of you wouldn't be here. Take yourself back 10 years. Take yourself back 8 years. Many of you wouldn't be here. 5 years. Many of you wouldn't be here. Couple of years, perhaps you wouldn't be here. Maybe it's recent. Maybe it's just like last year you wouldn't be here because this kind of topic wasn't for you. But now, because your consciousness is starting to reorientate itself towards truth, you start to become interested and you become a truth seeker. Where can I hear somebody who can help me understand the world myself? Because that seems to me right now to be a really important topic. So if you're listening to this, you've orientated yourself, you've got your compass out, you found your bearing, and you started walking. That's the most wonderful news. Even if you're right at the beginning, that's even more wonderful, because I tell you what, well, it's just as wonderful because it's so exciting. Debs, you're so right. Insight isn't something you manufacture within your thoughts. Insight is something that comes when you cannot predict it. Insight just happens. Insight is a gift from our soul. It's pure knowledge. It's pure knowledge. It's always going to be simple. Insight will always be simple, and it will be clean. And you will go, that's true. That's true. The way I see it, we have, people tend to think what I'm talking about is universal insight, what I call universal insight. I think you have personal insight, which is where I remember one Scouse fella being at one of Jenny's retreats and Rudy's retreats, and he came up to me and went, "Hey, guess what? I realise that it's all right for me to call Liverpool a shithole." And I'm like, really? Is that what you're taking away from this? Really? Personal insight. It's all right for me to call Liverpool a shithole. Great. Wonderful. So, you know, we can have personal insight where we can start to see something about ourselves. That's wonderful. What a gift. When you start to become aware, you suddenly have an option. Until you become aware, you have no option. It's like being followed. Imagine being followed, but you don't know you're being followed. What option do you have? You just carry on through your day. But the moment you become aware, and now you can plan something. Now you can do something different. But first of all, you have to become aware. So this awareness that we're starting to reorientate ourselves towards is our greatest gift. It truly, truly is. This is our greatest gift, to start to reorientate ourselves. People act on thoughts. They don't know that they're acting on a thought. People act on their feelings, but they assume their feelings are being created by the circumstances in their lives. Work, relationships, traffic, kids, school, college, uni, whatever, weather, traffic, politics, finances. We believe our feelings are created from outside of ourselves, and then they impose themselves without our say-so upon us. And when you live like that, you feel very, very vulnerable. That's why most people the people who are in prison, because they feel so frigging vulnerable. They fight, they kill people. Don't you disrespect me? Or you feeling a little bit vulnerable? But when we reorientate ourselves, we suddenly go from a place of vulnerability to strength. And you realize strength was actually the only thing we ever were. The vulnerability was us more lost in the illusion than anything. The vulnerability was so little us. In fact, it was not us in the slightest. The true us is the true state of power. It's the space from which reality is born. And it doesn't matter who you are that. And the thing is about thought is it comes in so quickly, so seamlessly. It comes in and it's generated our feelings, it's generated our perspective. Think about it. How else could you have a different perspective to another person if it wasn't for thought? What other thing could possibly generate another perspective other than thought? Is there anything anybody can think of? You realize this is the only thing we're facing. We're facing the illusion of our own thoughts. This is what everybody on earth faces. But the problem is we all believe our reality to be the true reality, which on one hand it is. But on the other hand, it's a complete and utter illusion. The reason why I say on one hand it is because how real does reality actually have to be before we call it reality? It's a reality. It's a potential of the infinite potentials of realities we can experience. So therefore, it's as real as every other experience. But it is an illusion insofar as it's a manifestation of our own mind. But when you don't know that, and when I say when you don't know that, I don't mean when I woke up, I've known that ever since. I've known it, but do I live like that? No, do I? I live, friggin' hell, I'm sick of driving all the way down to Essex and back up to Cumbria sometimes. God, I friggin' hate packing this bloody van. Lucia, I need you to be quiet. I need you to be quiet right now. Jen, seriously, stop talking to me. I just need some quiet. Oh, God, water them bloody plants. I haven't watered the bloody plants. Whatever it be, you know, like all kinds of things. I still live very much as a human being. Because it doesn't stop you from being human. It's not about not being human. It's about living as a human. If you weren't meant to be a human, you wouldn't be a human. It's that simple. Look around, look at nature. Do you see any mistakes in nature? You are nature. We are nature. Nature didn't take its eye off the ball when it made you, didn't take its eye off the ball when it made me. It made us all different, but it gave every single one of us, whatever intelligence lies behind nature, gave every single one of us the single force of creation. Be still and know ye are gods. It says in the Bible. What does God do? Creates. But God in this instance forgot and started to think it was a victim as opposed to a creator. Something that creates an experience. The only thing we've ever experienced is experience. And when you don't know, you live in an experience and you think you're living in an external reality that's imposing itself on you, then you will innocently do all the best you can to try and keep yourself safe. And that can show up in any amount of ways on this planet. It's just people trying to feel safe. People trying to be heard, trying to be seen. People trying to not feel insecure. And in that we're all innocent. It's beautiful because when you start to see it in others, hopefully you can start to see it in yourself. People are as good as whatever thought is being generated in that moment. And nobody can be any better than it. So if we really hold a grudge, if you look closely, you'll realize who you actually hold a grudge towards isn't actually an individual. It's against the power of thought. And when you realize you're actually holding a grudge against the power of thought, because let's face it, you cannot have an action without thought. I can punch somebody in the face without a thought to do so. When you start to look at what you're really holding your grudges against, you realize it's the power of thought. It becomes a little bit ridiculous. It's not the person. It's the power of thought that creates their experience of life, their feelings and their actions. Same for me. Same for you. I don't know why I think half the stuff when I think it. I don't know why some days I can be really, really tolerant and some days I'm not very tolerant. Just some days I'm more aware and other days I'm not. It's part of life. It's part of being human. Personally, I'm not trying to become anybody. I'm just enjoying my life. I stopped that trying to be a somebody when I saw how much suffering it created me. Even if that idea is I need to be the best human being I possibly can, that thought will create you suffering. Because you'll cast judgment upon everything you think falls short of it, and you'll berate yourself, and you'll hate on yourself, and you'll think you're not good enough. But really, you set yourself a bar that doesn't actually exist, innocently, because we thought it was real. I was gifted with the experience of leaving my body when I was younger. I was gifted with the experience of going into the next space. And I tell you, there's nobody who judges us. The only judgment takes place here on earth. We judge ourselves. There is only love in the next space. Leave the past where it is, Debs. It doesn't exist anymore. It's not you anymore. It wasn't you then, and it's not you now. You are the now. You are the now. Thank you. I didn't make you on. Sorry, love. So sorry. Innocently bad. Just didn't occur to me. When people find the now, they have a spiritual experience. When people find themselves, they have the same experience. The innocence lies in our misunderstanding. You cannot know what you do not know. It's impossible. Even regret of the past is innocent. It's all innocent. It's all misunderstanding. Coming in. Yes, speaker. How did it go? Does anybody, Deb's asked a beautiful question. She was asking about psychological innocence.
Did someone called John manage to get on?
No.
Oh, he joined the Zoom meeting.
Not this one, he didn't.
Just gonna double check I haven't sent the wrong link. Sorry.
Right. Does anybody want to say anything? Any questions, reflections, observations? There you go.
Wouldn't it be funny if Uncle John is on a completely different Zoom meeting about something completely different, and he's just like going,
Yeah, he's got the wrong Zoom link. He's got last week's Zoom link.
Oh, bless him.
"Oh no!"
It just popped up on my phone when I was putting Lucy to sleep that he tried to get in.
Yeah, apologies to anybody who is trying to get on and struggling. We got Zoom bombed so horribly. We we decided we've got a duty of care to you lot as well. You know, and some of the things that have been said they weren't nice at all. And I just talk about psychological innocence, threats to kill Jenny, myself, and our kid. It's such an interesting thing because when you know that somebody who writes that doesn't feel good, you cannot feel good and write those things.
No.
It just doesn't exist in the same space. So you can see that people are trying their best to feel better, and they might look at me and Jen and think, oh, look, you've got your life together. I haven't, you fucking assholes, or something like, I don't know what the hell. We haven't got our lives together. We're human. But to be able to forgive people like that. Like, I remember when you got abused, you got sexually assaulted, didn't you, by a therapist? Jen went to go and get some healing off this man, and I've been up metal detecting and found a great little thing. I was really chuffed and couldn't wait to show Jen. And long story short, Jen told me what had happened. I mean, I fucking hit the roof. I hit the roof. I was like, I'm going to go see him. Jenny is not daft. She knows me pretty well and knows that probably my go-to is going to be Dave's going to hit the roof. And Jen being Jen, sensible and intelligent, she hid all the car keys. So I couldn't go anywhere. And it's funny because she said to me, she said, can I tell you something without you making it about you? I was like, yeah. Turned out I couldn't. No, turns out I couldn't. But I remember I got his phone number and I rung him up and I spoke to him. And I wasn't polite to him. I really wasn't polite. I rung up the police. I told the police. He got 16 months in prison. But he had done something else to a minor as well, to a kid.
Don't just come off the sex offenders list.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm somebody who a few years ago would have looked for an opportunity to batter somebody, and he would have been my first port of call.
Would have felt justified to you, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it'd have felt justified to go and hurt him, which I'll be honest. In the first 15 minutes, that was right up there as an option. I'm not going to say it wasn't, because it was. I'm going to be honest. I am honest. I'm honest about all these things because I think it's ridiculous lining people up to. I don't like it when people aren't honest, because I don't think it's good for people who are listening. I know people who share things that I know fine well it's not honest. They're pretending to be uber spiritual. They're pretending to be so enlightened or whatever. I don't think it's useful because I know these people. I've seen them act. I've bore witness, and I see them telling an untruth, and I'm like, why would you do that? That's why Jen and I do our best. We try our best just to be honest. And in that 15 minutes, yeah, I was up for hurting that man. I was up for giving a right fucking hiding. And then we went to bed that night. We were a bit shaken up, really. We were a bit shocked. Like, what? Do you want to come in a bit further? And I remember we both suddenly we both started talking about the same time. It feels really sad. It feels really sad to know that was he 80? 79-year-old man, a very good healer as well, has just totally ruined his life.
He was a physical therapist, wasn't he?
Physical therapist, my apologies. Has just totally ruined his life. And with that, we both felt really sorry for this man, didn't we? We didn't forgive what he did, but we forgave him. He acted on a thought. He acted on a feeling. He had an urge. He said later on, he said, I found her really attractive. Fair enough. Do you know what I mean? You're allowed to find somebody attractive. Don't think you're entitled to stick your hand down the knickers, but he didn't know any better in that moment. That was the best that man had in that moment. God bless him. And in that by the night time, we could both see the man's innocence. And we were both quite surprised at that, how quickly it came about. We were both, and also both very, very grateful, because feeling angry is not a nice space to live in. It's not a nice reality.
We did, for the next couple of weeks, we were very disorientated,
Yes.
And quite emotional. And
Yeah.
so it wasn't that it just all vanished.
No.
But I think it was your anger disappeared. So I don't think I felt angry. I felt totally just bemused.
Well,
and I was annoyed.
Fault, didn't you?
Yeah, but then they said that in the way that his language, it sort of was the first time I'd ever heard the term gaslighting. The way that it said, the police said it sounds like he's done this many times, because the things that he was saying to you are to try and almost make you think you're mad. And I sort of came away thinking, God, did I somehow inadvertently sign up for this? So I was really doubting my own judgment. But I think over the next few weeks, it all just settled, and I just let it move through the different emotions. But I think for you, anger is something that has in your life dominated different periods, and that seemed to be your first result. And actually in my life, kind of not feeling good enough, and have I got it wrong, has been a bit of my story. And it's interesting, that was the lens that I viewed it through. But it was massive learning for both of us in so many different things. And just like when I had to do a victim statement, and I didn't feel like a victim, but I wanted to make sure my statement showed that actually there had been a lot of upset caused, and I really wanted to prevent, hopefully, it happening to anybody else, because I did feel lucky to have the family I had and the support and
the knowing you have, the awareness that you carry. Yeah, and we saw him. He came into a shop 3 weeks ago. Seen him once or twice before, haven't we?
Once, I think.
But he was asked to leave the shop by the shopkeeper because Jen was in, and he left. And then I watched him turn around and come back in and start looking at some supplements and looking over his shoulder. So I went up and just said, I'm just going to politely ask you to leave now. And with that, he just walked out. It's not about being passive, not about being aggressive, but it's not about being passive. It's not about not taking action. In that moment, I knew Jen wouldn't particularly like that man being in the shop. I also knew Jen wouldn't be the person to go up and ask him to leave. And we said to the man, I said, I'm sorry for throwing him out. He said, I'm not bothered if you throw him out. I said, well, I am sorry. And I just said, but you know, he has done his time. He's entitled to come back in the shop. Isn't, if you want him back in your shop, he has done his time as far as we're concerned. We just don't want him around Jen. Yeah, to kind of forgive doesn't make you a pussy or a walkover or anything like that. To forgive means you let go of the past. You stop holding on to the troubles of the past. You stop carrying them around with you. To forgive is to let go, is to forget.
It's almost like the forgiveness that happens, the feeling, the intensity of feeling is what leaves. That makes sense.
Yes.
Like, because I think one of the
It's like a
things
storm
that
passing, isn't it?
Sid spoke about is to forgive is to forget, and it's not to actually have your mind wiped, but it's you forget because you allow yourself to move into the next moment and find peace and feel the benefits of what forgiveness really is. And we've got a friend who talks very much about, I've had this happen in my life and I've forgiven it and you don't realize this, and they have such a narrative around it. I feel like, well, you haven't found any peace. So I don't feel
you're still talking
it's
about
still an intellectual understanding of what forgiveness is, because I feel forgiveness is freedom. True forgiveness frees us, and I don't think it's something we can manufacture, but I feel like it's what comes as an implication of understanding, because the more that we understand in every single moment, every single being on this planet is acting out of the best that they can do in that moment. They can't do it or do any better unless they see another option. And I think that helps us find, or forgiveness find us, because you see it's innocent and it's not personal. And I think we're so quick to take life personally, and we're so quick to blame and judge and think someone should have done better. Well, I would have done better in that situation. I never would have done that. Like, we're so much in comparison and judgment, and I feel like the principles keeps bringing you back to a single point of creation takes place from within us, and it looks true and real, and we act accordingly. And if we're in a low level of well-being and the thinking that comes to mind is of negative nature, and we don't see it, we act out upon it, and then there's consequences. So like, it's not saying that because we saw the innocence in that man that he shouldn't have gone to prison.
No.
I hope he learnt something from going to prison, and he's on a sex offenders list for life now, so he won't be able to practice.
Which is a real shame on one hand, but it keeps people safe.
Yeah, I mean, from the discussions we've had with the girls that work in the shop, they just said it doesn't seem like he's learnt much because of his manner with them, and they just said he sort of comes in every day, and so I don't know, but I'd hope that it means no one else has to go through that. But I don't have any bad feeling towards him. And the first time we actually saw him, I sort of had a moment of like, whoa, I didn't expect you to be here. And then we went to sit outside and got chatting to people, and
we had a lovely conversation, didn't we? And
we walked out, I was like, God, I'd kind of imagined in 2018 or 19 when it happened, bumping into him and how that might feel, and it just didn't. And I was so grateful, because I feel like that's something within us, is the ability to go through something, experience the sadness, the grief, the anger, whatever it is, and for it to naturally come and go. We haven't got to do that. And I think there's something about coming across the principles. For me, I knew it was true that we're built and born for life, and that if we leave ourselves alone, we go through things and then we come out of them and go into something else, and we get insight, and we get gifted forgiveness and understanding and compassion, and it's just a gift to have this understanding in your life. And I think it keeps revealing, and then there's other silly little things that have happened which I end up holding a grudge, and I catch myself. So it's, you know, it's not that we've sort of transcended things, but I kind of, even those kind of things, I'm a bit suspicious of it, and I see my role.
when you said, Debs, you know, you got these regrets of the past, I think one of the things that really freed me was when I realized it couldn't have been any different. It literally couldn't have been any different. I couldn't have done anything different. I couldn't have done better. I could have done so much better than if I'd just done this, if I'd just said that, if I'd just done that, if I'd just walked away. I couldn't. It's impossible. 100% impossible. Given what was occurring to me in that moment, given my level of consciousness, given my perspective of the world in that given moment, of that circumstance, what I was presented with was all I had. Full stop. Doesn't mean that throughout time I haven't had the gift of learning from my experiences and going, oh, next time, perhaps if that crops up again, I might have a little bit more awareness around it this time, which is a beautiful gift. It's a beautiful gift of reflection and hindsight. It's a beautiful gift of the past. We can learn. We can do things differently. We can evolve. But to realize it actually couldn't have been anything different, it's impossible. It's like now, right here, right now. It's impossible for Lara to, again, be doing anything other than looking out the window and playing with her hair. Impossible. Totally impossible. Because that was what was occurring to Lara on some level in that given moment. Full stop. Then when you start to realize the truth and the magnitude of that point, people are as good as the thought that is occurring to them in any given moment. Full stop. No ifs, no buts, yeah, buts. No, full stop. People are as good as whatever thought is occurring to them in that given moment, whether the thought is visible or invisible, whether the thought is a conscious thought or whether the thought is a belief, the subconscious. That no longer looks like thought, it just looks like true reality. People are as good as that in any given moment. And in that, again, you can find innocence. You see the innocence. Oh, that individual actually didn't have any other choice occur to them. Didn't have another option occur to them in that moment. And even if they did, they chose that one because that's what thought presented itself more realistically as a better option to them. Likewise for me. I mean, I've forgiven myself for some horrible things. And the thing is about guilt is it doesn't serve anyone. It doesn't actually bring anything of quality into this world. You're not doing somebody a favor. I remember I made a bit of a mistake once in a hot tub when I was with my first wife. Say no more.
You're with another couple.
Yeah, say no more, said.
I know, but it sounds weird if it's just him
Oh,
with your
it's
wife.
true. Yeah, I was with a couple, fair point. Yeah, I was very, 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 very drunk. And yeah, I made a bit of a mistake. I acted on the thought. And after I'd acted on it, I realized what had happened. And I was really pissed. I remember seeing the moon that night. It was big. It's like, shit, you just ruined your marriage. You idiot. Anyway, 9 months later, I'm still moping around like a dickhead.
You're giving up drinking.
Giving up drinking, which was no bad thing. But I hadn't let myself off the hook Now, the reason I didn't let myself off the hook was because I wanted to prove to my wife at the time, who was an absolute sodding angel, one of the most wonderful human beings you could meet, that I was sincerely sorry. But she's going to me, seriously, Dave, you're doing my head in now. You're doing my head in. Will you please just cheer the fuck up, Dave? Please cheer up. You do my head in. I can't do that. No, I can't, because I can't forgive myself for what I did. Can't forgive myself. This was me. She was like, seriously, you're doing my head in now. My moping around wasn't serving her. My moping around wasn't serving our relationship. My moping around wasn't serving me. My moping around didn't bring anything of quality to the world. My lack of forgiveness for myself brought no quality to this world. Nothing of value. It just brought in more frequency of guilt, suffering. I was just more suffering on the planet. It's not the way we're going to create a more beautiful world, isn't through more suffering. The way we're going to create a more beautiful world is through more love. But I wasn't really interested in that at that point in my life. But guilt doesn't, holding ourselves to a moment in time doesn't serve anybody. Lise. Oh, again, love, you froze. You were frozen. Sorry, love, start.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
I really thought about you last week. You both last week. My brain kept going, oh, look at everybody else. Look how normal they are and how happy they are. And look at you. Look at, I know it's me. I'm just like a stuck record, aren't I? Yeah. And I was like, oh, and it was going, look at you. There you are, overthinking again, and everybody's look, they're just got buckets and spades and they're just going about life, oh, laughing and stuff. And here's you wrapped up in thought yet again, Mrs. Anxious and stuff, and you're just mad, you are, etc. Right. And then I was in the camper, and the next one I was speaking to this really lovely lass, and we were just chatting and stuff, and she was saying, oh yeah, should I have, I said, what a great setup you've got in your van there, you know, with the two bikes. And she'd that turned into a bed. She'd, yeah, but I have to have a Portaloo, because my tummy gets that bad. And I said, oh God, tell me about it, you know, because and sorry, it's probably too much information. But I said, but do you get anxious like around that? And she went, oh my God, yeah. And I said, really? I said, you look so all together and stuff. She went, oh no. She said, and if my dog's out of my sight, that causes me big anxiety. And I said, but you look so chilled and relaxed. She went, yeah, well, you know, I try to get on with life and stuff. But yeah, she said, yeah, I get big waves of anxiety and stuff. And I was like, wow. Anyway, chit chat, and you know, ended great. We had a hug and stuff, and I thought, flipping heck, you know, she's like, you look so well, you look so blossoming and glowing and stuff, you know, and so that was that. And I thought, flipping heck, look at that. Then I got home and I was chatting to a neighbour over the garden gate, and it turns out she opened up about, and I hold her in very high regard, and she sort of floats through life, you know, and looks all very together. And she was saying, oh God, I just get such raging anxiety. And I was like, what, you? But you always got really groovy outfits on and you just seem to float past and stuff. She went, oh God, sometimes I get such, but she's like, I can't drive on the motorway. I was like, really? I said, I love motorway driving. She went, oh no. And she said, and I get so overwhelmingly anxious about this and stuff. And I said, well, I never would have thought that. You look so, and it just totally hit me about the veil of lies that I'd been feeding myself, or that thought had been feeding me, that everybody's got it all together and there was only me, and why can't I be the one that can't get it together? And these just two beautiful people, and the kind of the veil fell from my eyes of the illusion, the psychological innocence, I guess, that just the veil just slipped, and I could no longer see what I was being told, or I was telling myself, or however thought was working. I just thought, you can't lie to me anymore, because I have concrete proof, if you will. Nothing's concrete. I know that, but that was just huge to me. And then I just felt this beautiful lightness, which I have not felt for a very, very, very long time. I get glimpses of that, but maybe I am just mad. But then, and it was a lovely feeling to be in. And then I went out with Mum on the Saturday, and I woke up with a migraine. And my thoughts are always a lot more, as they are when we are ill. It's almost like, well, for me anyway, it's where there's a crack in the armor, when I'm ill. And so I woke up, this is migraine, and the thoughts were back, just like pecking. And then I just thought, I'm giving this up to God, and I'm going to follow your lead, because I thought, oh my God, how am I going to get through the day? How am I going to get through the day? And I just thought, I'm giving this up to God, and I'm going to let you lead. I'm giving this up to God, and I'm going to let you lead. It wasn't on me to lead, how to work out how to get through the day, to the dogs, to foster dog and stuff. It was just, and I've just really thought about you and your moment of seeing the bird, and it making sense. And I don't know, there's just a lightness that's come. And I slipped back into habitual thinking today, but I know it was just habitual thinking, and I know that's going to take possibly a second or a bit of time to let go, because that habitual thinking will come back. But just, and I've been really wanting to give it up to something bigger than myself, that it's not all on me to figure out. I don't have a partner, I don't have a this and a that, and it's been a long bloody battle in lots of respects over the last 20 years with health conditions and stuff. And just that Sunday morning, to say, that fear of how am I going to get through the day, and just to say, I'm giving this up to God, and I'm going to let you lead the way. And I got to, and my migraine went, as well. And I just didn't feel like I had to figure it all out. And yet, like I say, the habitual thinking crept back in today, but I was more aware that, hey, that's okay. This has been habitual for a long time. And just staying back in this conversation, it will make more sense again. And just, I'm seeing amazing words. And you know what? The quieter I've got, all these amazing things. Sorry, it's just some cats and dogs killing each other. So it's okay, 6 against 3. Yeah. And just these things that are just, for me, everything comes back to Christ at 7 or something. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. His spirit lives in me. So if I am in fear, it is either the enemy or the self trying to control. And I thought, flipping heck. Daily surrender, gratitude, practicing awareness of God is everything. But just those words of, God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of a power of love and a sound mind.
It's absolutely true.
And I'm just, as my mind is getting quieter, because these whispers can't come when the mind is shouting. And it's almost like, I might be wrong in this, but what it seems like to me is that when mind or thought is shouting, you're never going to hear those whispers of, and insights, like you said, they don't need to be grand. There can be micro moments of joy, micro moments of seeing, of letting these dust motes float in. Doesn't have to be. I know. And there's a little bit of me is scared because it's been a lovely, peaceful feeling, and I'm like, uh-oh, what if it goes back to being all shit? But I'm like, hey, just stay in the conversation. Let God, as in universe, to me, that is universal consciousness, or whatever that is, as Sid would call it. There's another lovely quote by Sid about God, strangely, and I just thought, let God lead the way, whatever God it is. Just
Sorry, Liz, carry on.
Let that He, Divine Mother, whatever divine, whatever it is, let that lead, Lise. You've done really well. You've been really strong over the last 20 years. You've fostered, God knows how, fostered, adults that have blossomed and not turned into, and coped with worsening health and stuff, and still got 6 rescued dogs and 3 cats and a load of budgies. Just, forgive yourself for innocently thinking it was all true. And just like to know that I thought of you when I thought of God in whatever guise it comes in, and just to let go. And I'm just really grateful to be back in the conversation with you both.
Us too, Lise. That's beautiful. That's really, really beautiful. And the thing is, if many people are so afraid to let go of control, because if they think that if they let go of control, that somehow their life's just going to spike. They think that they're constantly micromanaging their every single move,
Yeah.
thought, and food. They think that that's actually keeping them safe.
Yeah, that's what I've done.
Yeah, but it's so counterintuitive. I think, is it Bill Pettit who talks about that aeroplane, like it's a trainer jet when you're flying in it, and say it goes into a stall or something, let go,
Spin.
it spins it. Let go, just let go of the controls. No, I don't let him fucking go of the controls. He's gonna fucking crash. Let go of the controls, and the plane will right itself. I think it was Bill who mentioned that, like, and you know, to understand that's actually how we work. You know, when we forget our stresses, you don't feel it. There's no stress. I love it when people come work with us every now and again. I go, how do you feel right now? And they go, I feel really good. Yeah, interesting, isn't it? Have you noticed? Had you noticed you felt good? Because that's what you've been looking for. And here it is for you. You know, and it's like in that moment, they're not trying to control anything. They're not micromanaging their moods. They're not micromanaging their thoughts. They're not trying to micromanage other people so that they feel safe. So that's what it all boils down to. I don't feel safe. That's what it boils down to. If you're looking closely.
Yep.
And
yep.
it's like, in your words, when you surrender, you know, God, you can handle this now. I'm letting go. Not this. You have to feel better in that. You have to feel better.
Yeah.
Because you've relaxed.
And also, I've really made an effort to. Oh, is that not plugged in? I really made an effort to spend more time in the camper, not particularly going away for the night, but spending a good portion of the day in the camper with the dogs, reading, listening, lying down, being in nature, and not feeling guilty that I should be at home shoulding all over myself.
Because you're doing something you enjoy.
Yeah. And
that's another consequence.
Being in I mean, I'll send you the beautiful picture I took the other night. It's just and getting back into my photography and taking those micro moments to notice, to create a pause. It's not about stopping to smell the roses. It's about creating a pause to look. And some of the photography I've been doing on an 2016 phone, and they're just coming out brilliant.
Oh, lovely, Lisa.
And just seeing that you know that God, whatever we want to call it, is everywhere.
Everything.
In a leaf, in a sound, in a smell, in a whatever.
I was talking to someone earlier who said they had this amazing pear tree in their front garden and it fell down, and they chopped it up and put some in the woods. They did all the different things with it, but they made an amazing chair out of it. And then this chair has sprouted. It's now got like these really tall things. And we were talking about how incredible nature was, and that life force. What is it? That force that lives us, that force that self-corrects, that force that knows how to live. And all of them have just said they've been so blown away by it. I mean, the bits that they put in the wood have died off, but the stuff they've like taken the bark off everything and put it, and it's like 16. I said to her, could you take a picture and send it to us?
I'd love to see
that.
I thought it was the coolest thing, like that force, whatever that life force is.
Yeah, I rescued an apple tree. I nicked it out of somebody's garden, really, to be honest, because it was in a pot and it had been there for far too long, and they'd not put it in a pot. You know, it just, and it was just a sapling thing, and they just never have been asked to do anything with it. And one night I went down and I took it because it deserved to live. It deserved to live, and they wanted to live. So, and I planted it in the garden, and it gave me this little apple started, and it grew and it grew, and it turned from green to the most incredible red. This one apple, it was
What was it?
A poison apple.
so beautiful. A bloody
was what?
apple.
You paused again.
It was an apple. This beautiful, one singular, beautiful, enormous red apple. And you know what? It's not produced another one anything this year, and it doesn't matter. It was just saying thank you for giving me life. So now, right. So now I've gone and raided all of Aldi's dead plants, right? Sainsbury's, Tesco's. So if anybody wants any cheap plants, I'm just kidding.
Cheap as in nicked.
Yeah, yeah. Fill the camper. No,
I think a discount.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, thanks. That's it. Just.
Oh no, it's beautiful at least. Well, this is, I think what you're describing there is what many people would describe when they start sharing their insight of waking up to the principles. One of the first things that they do is they stop trying to control their lives. I've said it before on this call, I don't always get to choose what comes into my mind. You can ask me a question like, what's your name? And I'm not going to give you some random response. I'll give you my name. What age are you? I'm going to give you my age. Where did you go yesterday? I might have to have a bit of a think about it, but I'll be able to tell you eventually. Might have to ask Jen first though. So it's not like the mind is a random thing, but a lot of the time thoughts just come into our mind. The mind thinks. That's what the mind does. 95% of it's just waffle, but it's waffle that people take exceptionally seriously. And why was I saying this? Oh, but one of the greatest things that I am so grateful about is, when it comes to life, is I don't control all my thoughts. Because if I did, half of the means by which I discover a way to do something, or an idea that comes to me in a moment to create, or something to say to somebody, and just say this, hey, a friend, just say this, say that to them in a moment, and it's fitting for them. It's what they needed to hear. It's what they wanted to hear, or something like that. I don't know. It's like, I'm so grateful that I don't control my life. That there's, when I say me, I mean Dave, the ego self, that thinks it has control or should have control. It's like the story, the entity that my soul has created. I even say my soul. We are the soul. That's what we are. It's not mine. It's me. The soul is me. It's my ego. But it's like letting go is one of our greatest things, because when we let go, newness comes in. There's this newness that's born, and suddenly life becomes exciting. Why does it become exciting? Well, because it's new. You can stand in the same place, like when you came home after your realization, you came home and realized where you live. You're like, what a beautiful village I live in. This
all the thatch roofs and things.
Yeah, and you could see beauty. I know when my sister had her experience of realization, she went home, sat down in my sitting room for the first time, and was actually in my sitting room. She was like, it is seriously dusty. So first thing she did was she dusted her sitting room, because she could actually see the dust, because she was present.
Yeah.
And that's the gift of letting go, you know, in 12-step they call it let go and let God or whatever. And it's like through realization, you realize the control that you are exerting upon yourself is actually the thing that's keeping you prisoner. That's the thing that's creating the suffering, not the thing that you're afraid of. The thing you're afraid of is the thought, not the thing. You can't be afraid of a thing because a thing has no power to create a feeling. The only thing that has the power to create a feeling is thought, consciousness, mind. That's the only thing. So you cannot be afraid of a thing. It's impossible. So it's,
And I realize, even though I've kind of been in and out of the conversation with you for 4 odd years now, and I was like, why am I not getting it? And I realize I think it's because I still want it to be in control. I think. I don't know, it's all kind of new at the minute, and it's, yeah, just talking to those two women who are, and I thought I'm no different from them, you know, as in worthy. That everybody, you know, apart from if you're one of those lucky really, oh yeah, me, I've always been happy-go-lucky and stuff, nothing bothers me. Well, good for you. But
it's interesting though when you talk to people who maybe say that about themselves. It's interesting the amount of people that sometimes feel anxious, get stressed about things. Like there's no categorization of experience. So they just have this general kind of idea that life's all right. But it's like your dad, I remember him, it really struck me when I was talking about my dad's anxiety. And he said, what do you mean anxiety? And I sort of described the feeling, and he's like, oh, well, I get that. I've got a big job on, or yeah, I get that feeling, but I never would have called it anxiety. So I feel like so often, like we look at someone and I feel like we all have all the full range of feelings that come and go within us. And some people think it means something and some people don't. And some people have awareness and extra layer of thinking about it and some people don't. And I don't know, I feel like sometimes when people get involved in self-development or therapy or any of those things, it's like it puts a focus on us. It puts a focus on every single detail of our mind and our thinking and our past. And then I think if we're used to that kind of system, we come across the principles and then we start using the principles in the same way. Like rather than recognizing, oh, this is pointing out what already exists within life. This is pointing out how life comes into form. I'm already it, I'm already perfect. Oh, it's a focus is on what comes before. The focus is on the power, not on the content. But we're so used to looking at the content that we sort of start using the principles to look at the content better or to
yeah,
the content. I don't know. So we end up being like another job when actually
yeah,
it was never meant to be that. But I think it's if we've got that mindset, like I know sometimes teachers say they sort of take their teacher mindset on holiday or with their family, and it doesn't really work in that way.
It doesn't work, does it?
Do you see what I mean? So if we're used to self-development and we're used to looking at our thinking and trying to figure things out and we then take the principles and use it in that manner. So then it's just going to be a hamster wheel. It's just like another concept. But I think
tool,
we
tool.
we sort of step back maybe from it for a while and we can start living and noticing the truth of it. Oh wow, yeah, like yesterday I was totally caught up and that thing really looked like it had the power to make me feel a certain way, and today it looks totally different. It's true. It's my mind that creates my experience, not the thing. Like, so we learn. We can keep learning from it, but I think it's when we take it out of being a something to do or a something to learn or a way of thinking. Like, and I think we find it hard because we're so used to creating
conceptualization, isn't it,
of everything.
And then we're trying to find truth in a concept, you know, and you can't, it doesn't matter how many times you say this, people hear it when they hear it, and when they hear it they will experience the peace that you're talking about. It's like what we're talking about cannot be conceptualized, therefore it cannot be thought. It cannot be thought its way to. It is found in the moment of surrender, you could call it. I mean, quite often the mystics would call it the dark night of the soul, where, you know, you get to the point in this life where you go, I can't do this anymore. I fucking quit. Many people wake up from their sleep state dream of living life, aliveness, living through deep dark suffering, you know, when all of a sudden they go, and that's what happened to me, I can't do this anymore, I fucking quit, I'm out, I'm done with this life. And not try and think your way to being done with life, but actually being done with life. I'm seriously, I'm out, I'm done, I am going home, I'm done. Anything's better than this, you know. And in that moment of letting go, something fills people. Something fills that person, and that something will be a deep sense of peace and love. And suddenly they'll go, oh, I haven't got a frigging clue what the hell's happening, but this is amazing. You know, and once you've had a glimpse of it, nobody can ever take it away from you. Once you know, in the same way as you cannot know what you do not know. In the same way, once you know, you know.
Yeah, and you can't unknow.
No, and you can, you know, you can conceptualize it, you can create stories around it, which is really easy to do. It's what most of us do, you know. And the key is waking up and realizing, shit, I'm conceptualizing it again. That's not it either, you know. And try not to create too many stories around it, because that's just overthinking and it's not the truth. The truth of the matter is there is this force that exists before. I loved what you read. There's this force that exists before, and it is pure peace and love. And that's what exists at the heart of every single human being. Every single thing in this universe is made of it. Like I say, you know, the universe isn't made of anxiety. The universe is made of love, whatever that is. It's not made of fear. It's not made of duality. It's made of singularity. Universe, singular, one, one, universe. So it's like, even in our language, we know that there is this singular force at play, the universe, the one verse, one song, whatever you want to call it. I don't know.
Universe. What? Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, but anything that's based in fear is always based in two. It's always based in duality. Because it's always you being afraid of an object, you being afraid of a time, you being afraid of somebody, you being afraid of a thought, you being afraid of a feeling. There's always two at play. Fear always needs.
Oh God, right. I get you about that, because I was never. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And that's another thing that starts to happen when you start to see it. It all starts to, oh, that penny start to drop. Oh, that's what they were saying. That makes sense now. I can hear that now.
And I'll tell you what was funny though, as the ego was going, do you know what? I've totally got this, man. I've just dropped into this feeling of peace. I ain't never gonna feel shit ever again. Ever. I'm just enlightened. And I'm like, what the fuck? You know, it's just like, that's your fucking ego talking, like, oh man, I'm just so enlightened now. I'm just like, I'm here.
Well spotted.
I've landed.
Well spotted. Well spotted. Took me a while to say that.
What? Massive ego you had.
All right. No, it wasn't that actually. But yeah, that.
Yeah. So yeah, I was like, yeah, it's a nice feeling, mate, but you know, you've not just become a guru, you know.
But what you found is real. You know, it's true. It's like, and it's interesting because when people wake up, you know, we can share our fears. And your fears will be very different to my fears, be very different to Jenny's fears, be very different to Lara's, Deb's, whatever, you know, very different to each other's fears. But when people start to wake up, we'd all describe as similar. experience. So,
And do you two both still have fears? Or not? Well, I guess you see through them more quickly, don't you? And
I feel like I don't think about my experience, but if I look back, I get caught up on something, I get annoyed by something. Like I could really, like in the middle of the night when I was pregnant, loads of fear came up about that, stuff to do with Lucia, going on holiday when we went on holiday to Spain. But there's something that shifted in me that I've never felt the need for anything else. I've never felt like I needed to look outside. It's like, oh, I'm having an experience.
yeah,
Oh, I'm driving myself mad. Oh, but there's not even really that level of thinking about it. And I feel like that feels like a gift because
it's
I
just
sort
a
of go,
presence with what is.
you just
isn't
go
it?
in and out of whatever. And like today, I was boiling hot. Lucia kept trying to let go of my hand. We're in the middle of a car park. I was waiting for Dave. I couldn't get in the van. I was holding all this stuff. And it's like, this
You're
feels really
quite-
overwhelming.
You're quite mad with me.
I was like, I thought he said he was going to one more shop and he was coming back. And I was like, right, I'm just going to get Lucia. We're going to go and sit on the grass over there and she's going to have some milk and I'm going to check all this stuff on the floor. But there's no judgment that I was feeling stressed or overwhelmed. And then there's no like reflecting that that was wrong. It was just what came up in that
It's just the
moment.
experience of what was in that moment. Yeah.
And I think there's something, we create an idea of what we're going to look like when we have understanding, or what we're going to look like when we wake up.
yeah,
And I think
yeah,
without any
Mm.
of that, I didn't really have a concept before coming across the principles. I was been in normal therapy and didn't really think much was possible and blah, 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 blah. And suddenly I was like, oh, our feelings come and go. We're built for life. Like we've got divine intelligence running through every part of us. We're connected, or we are wisdom. There's wisdom in action for us, and that body wisdom is the same as the mind wisdom. And I feel like at that point it was like, oh, I can just live.
There's nothing to do now.
There is nothing to do. I didn't realize that before.
Yeah.
I realized that everything looks different, and I'm going to learn and I'm going to experience and I'm going to feel. Like I think I said last week when we went to the funeral, like the intensity of feeling and like the amount of people in such grief and sadness, it almost felt like, it feels like a permanent thing because it's so intense. And you know that's a very final thing, saying goodbye to somebody at a funeral. It's very final in that way. But then we sort of moved outside and I gave your sister a hug, and then suddenly I was in the next moment, and I think it really highlighted to me that feelings come and go, and the intensity comes and goes. It comes and it goes, and it comes and it goes. And some stuff seems to vanish and never come back, and other stuff keeps coming back and keeps coming back. But I've gained so much gratitude for when it's not there, just for life. The gratitude I feel for just having a lovely day or being very present. Like I noticed that. I didn't notice all the beautiful moments before I came across the principles, really. Or I'd worry and try and hold on to them. Whereas now I'm just like, wow, I'm so grateful. I'm having such a nice day.
Yeah.
There's been days that Lucia and I've had where we've got up, we've had breakfast, we've tidied the house, we might have cycled through to the park, we've done a few odd jobs, I've managed to get tea ready for everyone, and we haven't really done a lot. I've just been filled with this feeling. And there's been other days when we've, you know, paid to go to some amazing thing with the park, and then Lucia's antsy and I feel tired, but it's like there's no judgment. There's just what's happening more of the time. And I'm so grateful for that, because I speak with people all the time who are trying to get somewhere or be someone or get away from, and I understand that because I know I've spent part of my life, and actually I always talk about, you know, I was like, the principles has changed my life in so many ways, but I haven't really seen much around jealousy and insecurity, or not the level I wanted to. And then after having Lucia, some of the stuff that's fallen away, I'm like, wow. And some of the stuff now that I think, God, I would not have been cool with that. And I haven't worked on it. It's just changed.
Jen, you just froze. You froze then. You said about the principles, but then you said, but sometimes there hasn't been much around.
Oh, jealousy and insecurity. And it was like my thing. I was like, oh, still sometimes get that feeling, and that was a bad, wrong feeling to me. And I think
Right.
we've been together, there's been so much change. And then having Lucia, there's a massive shift, just loads of stuff have fallen away. And sometimes I'll get bothered by something, but it can't even grip me for as long anymore. I can't be bothered with it. And I'm so grateful. But it's like having Lucia, for some reason, took it off my mind that I needed to not have those feelings sometimes. Sometimes I might have those feelings. Big deal. Sometimes I might feel really insecure about things that other people wouldn't feel insecure about.
Then what?
Big deal. And I remember being with you like years ago, and you said, look, if you're always a jealous, insecure psycho, I'm still going to love you. I'm not going anywhere. Get over it. Can we stop talking about it and worrying about it? And it was actually quite helpful.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I might always get weird about these kind of things, but it's all right.
I think that's it. You said it early on. It's like when you start to see it's not personal. What you think is not personal. Yeah, it's not personal. It's like it's as personal as what you choose to make it. You know, if you want to make it all about you as well, oh, making this thought and feelings all about me, make it all about yourself. Go for it. Do you know what I mean? But if you can realize it's not personal, it's not all about you. It's a thought. It's a thought. It's no more personal than any other thought. It's no more personal than the thought that you give no attention to, that you think is ridiculous. It's nothing different to that. It's the same force in action showing up in a different way. And it's like when you start to see it's not personal, it's like you do start taking people less personally, you start taking yourself less personally. But I remember being on a stage in I've mentioned this before, but with one of the very prominent teachers of this, and this question was asked, what do you do when you feel like this? How do you get out of it? How do you get out of these feelings? And this man gave this very, very in-depth explanation of what you need to see, what you need to realize, what you need to think, and an explanation around it. And then it was almost like it was done, that had been answered. I said, no, do you mind if I just say something? I said, look, I still experience all those feelings you're talking about. I said, I don't do anything to get rid of them. I said, my relationship to them has changed. My relationship to my feelings, to my thoughts has changed. My relationship to experience, to life has changed. It's like there's a reorientation that takes place through insight. And this reorientation does everything you need in order to find peace. Insight is the thing that brings us peace, not the intellect, not the thinking, not the trying to grasp it, not trying to figure it out. That takes us away from it. The thing that brings us the peace that we are all seeking is an insight. It's a revelation. Now, an insight you cannot know, because otherwise it would have been an intellectual thought and you'd have already thought it. Insight is something that comes in a moment of, it can come in any moment, can insight. It can batter through anything. You can be stood in the loudest music and you can have insight, revelation. And it can happen to anybody. It can happen to people at the darkest times of their life and people who are perfectly happy, like my sister. For me, it was the darkest time of my life. Then my sister, she was already buoyant. The darkest times of her life were actually yet to come. You know, but it's, to me, the ease comes through a reorientation through insight, for everybody, not just for me, but explaining this to people, because what you're trying to explain is something that many people haven't actually experienced up until that point, or had a recognition of what they've experienced. And like you're describing there, you know, do we still experience fears? It's quite an interesting question, because I was trying to think, do I? Not like I used to. Certainly not. But I still get the full spectrum of experiences. You know, but my judgment isn't on it. I'm not trying to fix myself. I'm not trying to get rid of a feeling. There's no such thing as a wrong feeling. When you look at it logically. Use a little bit of common sense. Is there such a thing as a wrong feeling? wrong. I'm talking like a wrong feeling. Well, I want to feel like I want to beat somebody up. Well, that's not a wrong feeling. It's not giving you permission to go and do it. It might be a wrong action, but it's not a wrong feeling. You feel like you feel because you're thinking like you're thinking, full stop. And when you realize that that is an input, it's not all about you. It's like, it's a movement of, it's a flow of energy, because that's what all of reality is. It's a wave pattern. It's a wave and particle pattern. And it's like, but once you start to wise up to it, you start to use your wave and particle pattern in a far more logical, peaceful way towards yourself and to others. So yeah, it's a good question, that, Lise. I'm glad you did.
Well, thanks.
Thank you for sharing what you've shared.
And yeah, thanks everybody else for hanging in there.
No, thank you, Lise. It's been lovely, and it's lovely to hear. Really, really lovely to hear. Mad, it comes when you least expect it.
Yeah.
Often through ways you least. I mean, mine was through a jackdaw. I would never have thought that.
I know. And I think about that so much. I'm like, I want a Dave experience. I know.
Never have it. You had to have your own.
No, I know. But I know mine will be mine, and it'll come when it comes. And
It's already started, love. I'll just be grateful for what you've got.
yeah, I have, and that experience. The two. Yeah. Anyway, da-di-da. Pippin needs his epilepsy meds, and
I'm smiling at that. That's not nice, but bless him. Bless Pippin. Right, everyone. Let's call it a night. Just gone 9. And Lise, thanks for sharing that, love.
I was going to say, we hope we're going to be in Morocco next Monday.
Explain this.
Oh, you don't know
I
already.
did at the beginning.
All right. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Did you say we are going to try and do it?
I did say that, actually. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
do we all get our Moroccan? Do we need to get a Moroccan, handbook out?
One of them hats.
Hat, and
And a camel.
that's the way go.
The camel's going to need his epilepsy tablets or whatever. That's what we want to hear next week, Lise. Right.
All right.
Sorry about that. Let's call it a night. Everybody, thank you so much for being here. If you wish to make a donation, please do.
I'm going to, yeah.
I wasn't talking to you, Lise, but thanks.
Yeah.
I was talking to everybody. But thanks
For the
Lise,
recording.
for the recording. Yeah, if you wish to make a donation, please do. The link's in the description below. Hopefully we'll be here next week.
If not, definitely.
Yeah.
It's love.
Loads of love. God bless everyone.
Bye.
Bye.